Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod with Jeff Beale, aka Mr. Marketology. He is marketing strategist and founder at the Marketology Group, that is in GTAA GAA, Greater Atlanta area, aka live from Atlanta. He has been occupying a bunch of growth roles. He's been an SEO consultant, and he's quite knowledgeable about that, about automation. And we're also going to talk about podcasting today. So I'm quite intrigued by Jeff there. This podcast is brought to you by podbuyer.com. If you want to start, scale, be invited to a podcast like this one, or even get sponsors for your podcast, that is my podcasting agency. We do it all for you. Podcasts are amazing. If you want to meet cool people like Jeff, if you want to learn, if you want to grow your network and net worth, because you will get some leads and clients from these podcasts. So podbuyer.com. If you want to start, scale, be invited to pod. Jeff, welcome to the podcast. Can you tell me a bit more about yourself and about Mr. Marketology?
Yes, thanks for having me on the show, Charles. It's a pleasure. I mean, I've been in the room with some great people I've seen on your podcast. So I've been looking at it, and you've interviewed some great people, as well as you've contributed a lot yourself. I've been in marketing for several years. I was in marketing before. I guess we went digital back in the 90s. I've seen it grow to the digital era, and I've really grabbed a lot of interest when it came to like automation, SEO, and now my new favorite toy is AI. So I've seen marketing basically transition in a lot of ways, as well as the principles stay the same. So there's some principles in marketing that stay the same, even though the tools may change. But I enjoy doing it. I look at it as fun. I'm also a student of marketing, so a lot of times I'm that guy that's going to tell you that Santa Claus is not real. Friends get mad about that because I'll look at something on TV and I'll be like, "Ooh, that was a great way they market that," or "Ooh, that's a great way they did that on social." And everyone else looks at it as if it was just normal or natural. And I'm looking at it from the campaign side, like, wow, they got you to believe this. That is amazing. How they got you to engage this way or that way, or believe this or that, or do this or that. For me, I love the chess game. I mean that we play when it comes to marketing.
Do you play chess?
I want to learn. I am a very, very, very novice player. So I play against the computer, and of course it lets me come close, but I want to learn that game. That and
Right.
poker. Those are two games I want to learn.
Because I have a podcast. If you want, yeah, I use chess.com. I'm 1,000-ish. I stopped playing, so I might be a bit rusty, but if you want, you're invited to a 15 minutes chess match with myself. It's called Founder Chess. It's another edition of this podcast. So
Okay,
we can do that afterwards. Jeff,
cool.
tell me about your SEO background. Let's start with this. Where has SEO began, and where is it now today with AI? Without getting too technical and boring about, because SEO tends to be that type of topic usually.
Oh yeah, yeah. SEO is full of myths and sometimes can get real techy and boring. But to be honest, SEO has a lot of factors, about 240 plus factors. Most people key in on just a couple. Oh, you need keywords, you need the title tag, you need the headings, and so forth and so on. There's a lot that's involved in SEO, but I would tell people, even back in the days to now, you write your SEO, or you write your content for the people, you know, um, not for the engines. A lot of us, we want to let Google control our business. So we write it for the search engines and so forth, but then it doesn't make sense to the readers, the visitors. The challenge with that is two of the main factors with SEO is time on site and the amount of people that come to that particular piece of content. So if you got limited people coming to the content, or you have limited people staying on your page long enough, those two major factors are big, I guess you would say, X's in the box. And next thing you know, you could do all the keyword placements you want. You still aren't going to rank well. So there's so many other factors. And a lot of times with SEO, we make it simplified by saying, hey, you just need these keywords. You need to put keywords in these particular areas. Make sure your code is clean, so forth. And we love to make it techie, because if we make it techie, then of course we can charge, because you don't understand what we're talking about. I say write it. If more people want it, think of it this way. Google is a word of mouth machine. They are a referral type of entity. They make their money by being a place where you can come and get your answers or your questions answered. They provide you the best information for what you're searching for. If they do that effectively, more people come to their search engine and leverage them. If more people come to their search engine, then they can charge for ads, and that's where they make their money. If your site says you do A, B, or C, and they come to your site and they find out that you don't, or it's just not good content and so forth, and they leave, then like word of mouth, if any person, you'll stop referring people there, because it makes you look bad. So you make Google look good by having good content based on what you're optimizing for. Google's going to want to send more people your way. And the way that they do that is by ranking. So if you think of it that way, it's a lot easier than thinking all the technical things and tricks and hacks, because every trick and hack, sooner or later, the algorithm's going to change and it's just not going to work.
So bottom line, nowadays, use AIs to write great article, not necessarily optimize on keywords, but yeah, somewhat optimize on keywords and write mostly to provide great information at scale in a
Yes,
very digestible format.
exactly. And you can write a lot of long copy quickly. I'm not saying replace your copywriters. Your copywriters are experts in their field. AI is going to give good copy, but it won't talk about your company voice. It won't put it out in a way that your readers are used to knowing your voice. So for instance, if you are a more in your face type of company, it won't write it in that style. I mean, it'll try, but always have a good expert overlook what the AI is doing. Now, a lot of people are talking about, well, I've heard that the search engines aren't going to rank AI copy. And I call bull on that. The only reason I call bull on that is if they weren't looking at leveraging AI, they would have never created Bard. They're integrating AI into the search engine. So if they're integrating AI into the search engine, they are going to look at search engine copy that's generated by AI. But if I'm trying to win a game, I can tell you, well, this isn't going to be acceptable, but I'm going to do it, and I can win because now I've done something I told you that I don't really want you to do, so I can win. So, it's not saying Google's doing that maliciously, but I am saying that if they weren't going to leverage AI, they would not integrate it into their system the way that they are.
Right. Talking about your business nowadays, like what do you offer to who, and what are your go-to-market strategies to get these clients?
Yeah. So what I actually offer marketing strategies to companies and automation. I am the guy that doesn't lead them to the water, and I don't sell them. So I'm not the lead generator. I'm not the salesperson, but I'm the guy that creates that customer journey and put all the systems in place, put those processes in place to where it's almost seamless. It's streamlined from the time that they're aware of your brand to the time that they talk to your sales team. All of that automation, all that communication, and the actual customer journey that they go through, I'm the guy that puts that together for you.
So how much do you charge, generally speaking, to your services, and like do you target specific businesses?
I As far as charging, that's pretty much a wide range depending on you as a company and what you need. So, it can be as simple as, a 1,500 for me to bring out a visual blueprint for you to look at of your marketing strategy, all the way up to, you know, thousands of dollars for the retainer for me to continue to monitor, manage, and automate your marketing strategy. So, it can vary in that regards. As far as companies that I work with, I love working with first of all, companies that are already marketing. Somebody that already has a marketing team in place. They already have data that we can look at. We can make some data driven decisions. And then from there, we can optimize and maximize what they're already doing. So I work better with companies that have that in place. They have people that can implement different things that they're needing to do versus looking for me to be the strategist and the social media person and the SEO person. And, that makes it to where you got one guy trying to be a handyman instead of a specialist. And so I tend to shy away from companies that want me to do all the work for them. I'll come up with the plan, I'll automate the plan, I'll give you everything to make it lean. But you, as far as having other team members in place that specialize in different things, like for instance, you specialize in podcast outreach and podcast development, media, and so forth. I would leverage you to do that. I will give you, this is how it fits in the overall strategy. We need to do some podcasts. We need, podcasts to go to this particular audience. From that, they sign up. Now they're on the email list. We send X amount of emails, but we also send them back to reinforce our authority in the space to our podcast so they can see that visual and audio of our company and why we're experts in what we do. But I wouldn't be the guy to say, well, let me go ahead and edit your podcast. Let me set up your podcast. You should have your team member that's an expert in that do that. So that's how I operate with companies. I love business to business companies, SaaS companies, companies that know that it's not going to be an impulse buy. They're going to do some due diligence before they make a decision versus like certain, let's say, companies that they set up an ad and it's click and buy. There's no interaction between them and the client or customer. It's just a price-based decision. I like to work with companies that have a little bit more than just I have the lowest price mentality.
100%. Let's talk about the podcast for a moment. Why did you decided to start your podcast? What were your goals, and do you feel you've achieved these goals since you started?
Yeah, I started the podcast because I like to talk, as you can see. I love talking, love interacting with people, and I really wanted to do a little bit of a relationship building. And it's easy to build relationships when you get a chance to interview such experts out there. These are people that are amazing at what they do, and you get a chance to talk with them, learn from them, share with them, teach them in some aspects, and build some real good relationships. I have some friends that are across the nation, across the world actually, that if it wasn't for a podcast, I would have never met them. And so I enjoy that. As far as business wise, there have been some great areas of monetization, but I've found that the relationship building has been much more lucrative, financially as well as just spiritually, than just, hey, you want to be on my podcast, this is how much it costs, or you want to sponsor it, this is how much it is. I think those relationships have built into bigger opportunities in the future. Now, I'm not saying don't monetize. Business is business. Podcast has very good potential for monetization, but don't just look at, I guess you would say, the pennies and step over the dollars. Some of those relationships can lead to much bigger things.
How do you choose your guests?
I like to choose them based on subject matter and based on passion for what they do. I've interviewed some influencers, and it's been based on numbers. But what I found is those that don't have those huge numbers, they are usually a lot easier to interview, a lot more exciting to interview. A lot of the bigger ones, and I love the big boys. I love the people that are well known across the world. But a lot of times the message has been heard before, and they're going from a script. They've got a program that they're pushing you to, or offer they're pushing you to. They are doing this so often that they stick to a script. I mean, there's some that I follow. If I go to a conference, I know what they're going to say next. I mean, they stick to the script, but there's so many other people out there that I've had an opportunity to meet and interview, that I've had even lunch with, that are doing big things, and you never heard of these people. And I love it. I like interviewing people for my podcast. I like interviewing marketing experts that have worked with some of these brands you've heard of and some you haven't heard of, but they're the real engine behind it. They're the ones that are actually putting together the campaign, making it work. Yeah, of course, you see the person that's the talent that's on the front end. You see that, but you don't realize that they're just showing up and talking on the camera. The people that are doing the campaigns, that are making it work, they're the ones behind the scenes. And they're the ones that come up with the ideas, make it work. And pretty much they're the, I guess you would say, unsung heroes, because you don't know anything about them. And you don't get to hear, how did they come up with this idea? How did they actually get buy-in to this particular campaign? And I love that, because those are the people that they live and breathe marketing. So that's how I usually pick my guests.
And then how do you make sure to ask them the right question? Preparation via being in the moment and listening to what they have to say.
Yeah, so I definitely look at their social. I look at their website. I listen to if they have any podcasts or any speaking out there. I listen to that. But then I just have a quick green room conversation with them, and I tell them it's going to be loose. We're just going to have a conversation. Give me 2 or 3 talking points you want to make sure that I hit on, but we're not going to make this a formal press conference. It's going to just be a conversation, and we can talk about the weather. We can talk about sports. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about, because I want people to get to know you, get to know your personality. And as you do that, you're going to share your expertise. My job is to make sure I ask the right questions to tie that into the conversation. But I want them to be comfortable with you, because if you get so into what you're about to talk, it's a lecture. And I don't know how you were in school, but whenever the teacher started lecturing, I fell asleep. So I don't want them to fall asleep on the podcast. I want them to get to know you, get to know what excites you. I even had a guy on the show that actually raised chickens. And I'm not talking about like a chicken farm. He had a pet chicken. And I thought it was interesting because the chicken was in the house. And I was like, you have a pet chicken. But what he sold was email. He has a great solution. It's called Get Email. It's a great solution where he can find out the email addresses of those that visit your site, whether they fill out a form or not. And literally, who's come to your site, and you can contact them if you want. Great technique. Him and his girlfriend, I think, she might be his wife now, but they have a great business model. But we had so much fun talking about his chicken that was in the background during the podcast.
He had a pet chicken. Wow. That is certainly interesting. So I'd have more questions on that, but if we focus on the podcast topic, what percentage of the energy you deploy is about you learning? What percentage about making your guests feel at ease? And what percentage of making your audience feel interested and captivated?
That's a great question. I think as far as percentage of making the guest feel comfortable is the higher percentage thing. I want them to be at ease and to really have a good conversation and have a good experience. With that, I think the audience will then gravitate to the content. But I try to keep my ear to the pulse of the audience because I want to be that person that they aren't in the room. I want to ask the questions that they would have asked if they were talking to this person. So I try to get to know my audience well to know what kind of questions do they ask. That's why I like to specialize in marketing. It's something I do, but it's something I know about. It's something I know my clients may ask questions, people on social may ask questions. Even though I like other topics, like let's say relationships, I don't do a relationship show because I don't want to get into that brand. Something like this, if I ask a question, it's either A, I know my audience would love to know more about that, or B, I know I can grow from learning that information. And in the future, I can help somebody else because now I've grown to learn a little bit more. So, I put myself as far as last on that in the percentage game, but I'm trying to learn too. And I want to learn so my audience can learn based on me asking the right questions. And I don't try to, I guess you would say, be an expert at the same level as the person I'm interviewing. I try to be the little brother of the person I'm interviewing. So I can ask those kind of questions and not assume everybody knows, you know, this, that, the third, and we're talking so above everyone's head.
Last, how do you monetize your podcasting efforts?
Oh yeah. So there's people that pay to be on the show. There's people that want to sponsor the show. Um I typically, if I like your topic, I'll let you on the show, but I've learned that if you have a guest pay for their spot on the show, or at least pay for the promotion of that episode, I like the information to be as free as possible. But if me and my team are going to promote this episode and we've got to put ad dollars into it, social media efforts into it, SEO into it, all the things involved in promoting it, then, I'm literally promoting your business. And I feel it should be a joint effort there. I feel it should be. In one interview you did with John Lee Dumas made so much sense. He said basically, if a person pays for an interview, they come prepared, they come on time, they're willing to share, they're willing to promote it themselves. And I've noticed the same thing. When people come on for free, sometimes you have to ping them 2 and 3 times. Hey, could you share this with your audience? I know it's on your social, you haven't shared it. Can I mention you? Will you, kind of promote it some? I mean, I did it for free. Can you promote it some? And I've noticed the value isn't there because it was no skin off their back. They had no skin in the game. But when they pay for it, it's like, yeah, let me go ahead and promote this a little bit because I've invested into it. And so, I think that if, if you have them pay something, it doesn't have to be a lot of money, but at least have some value around them paying on your show. And like the way I do it, I basically say, hey, I'll interview you. If you're not paying, I just put it up. It's content. It's content we both can use. But if you want me to put effort into getting it in front of your audience, and see, I do it a little different. Some people do it based on my audience is this. I have this many downloads, this many listeners. I literally put together a campaign for you. We talk about your target audience. We talk about your goals. And I literally put the marketing campaign around that as if I was hired to market your company instead of I'm just marketing to my podcast audience, whoever that may be. So, that's how I'm a little different the way I do my podcast versus some others.
Good advice, man. Thank you, Jeff, for sharing that today. Where can people find out more about you?
Sure, you can find me Mr. Marketology. That's MrMarketology, MrMarketology.com. Also on almost all the social platforms. It's Mr. Marketology. You can find me there. Um, Hopefully I'm not hard to find. I try not to be hard to find. I try to make myself very accessible. And feel free to, reach out. I talk back. So if you ping me, I'll ping you back. I love having conversations and dialogue, and love the fact that Charles had me on this show. This is an honor.
My pleasure, man. So this was JB and Charles Cormier, founder wisdompodcast.com. You can find us there.